Hello there, and welcome to Fallout Greener Pastures. We're over halfway done the first part of our story. If you haven't heard the previous episodes, I feel like you should start there, or you're going to be very confused. Without further ado, we bring you our feature presentation.
Overseer's Log, June 10th, 2296. Enclave men dying, vault dwellers dying, everybody else is getting sick, zombie wandering my halls. Things can't get much worse than this. They act like this is all my fault. Everywhere I go, someone's angry with me. The dwellers think I'm the cause of all their woes, and the Enclave think I'm responsible for every delay and misfortune that besets them. And Gregor refuses to talk to me at all. I know he's hiding something. I could see the recognition in his eyes when he looked at the insignia on the soldier's uniform. He tried to hide it, but I could tell he was scared out of his mind. We discussed it at length. Dr. Feldspar was adamant that we would be signing Gregor's death warrant if we sent him back topside. The disease he's currently facing would likely make him more susceptible to freezing solid. His blood pressure is erratic, and he doesn't seem to produce body heat in the same way a regular human does. He doesn't even seem surprised by what's happening to his body. Is that what happens to everybody above ground? He's far more afraid of the Enclave, though. I don't know how much more I can take. I half expect one group or the other to burst in here at any point and force a change in management. I hope we get some good news soon. Some oil to warm the vault. That's all we need. That, and a way to kill the Ammy cook. At this point, I'd even settle for everyone just getting along. God knows it'd make my life far easier.
During the walk, Amka described the Chinese remnant community they would find in Fairbanks. I told you a little bit about them before. You know they're the remnants of the Chinese army, those who were unable to make it back to China after the nukes fell. Some hid in the deserted cities around Anchorage, or in bunkers that they took over from the United States Army. They slowly grew as the years went by, adopting a mix of what I assume are the customs of their lands, as well as military structures of the United States and their own army. They're not exactly nomadic like my people, but they do travel quite far outside Fairbanks. They use the railways to move from place to place. They're defensible and packed with the advanced technology they use to purify water and hunt animals. This also allows them to bring more supplies along. It makes them quite effective both hunting and fighting from their trains. My people used to see them regularly. As the years have gone by, it's become less frequent. They're generally peaceful towards us. When we used to trade with them more often, their farms were the main way we would get vegetables. The plants that we harvest are always infected with the hot snow sickness, but somehow theirs seem to be immune to it. I always feel better after I've had some fresh vegetables from the Chinese.
It took 2 more days before they ran into the first contingent of Chinese people. They were heading somewhere fast in their locomotive, too fast to stop and acknowledge the small group attempting to hail them. They stood in shock for a minute as the great beast sped along, black smoke mixing with the snow. The ground thundered beneath them, causing the loose snow to shift. Before long, they could only see the telltale smoke. Amka turned her head in the direction they were walking. They won't be that far away now. Just be polite. Your people shouldn't have an issue with that. You should put away your vault suits, though. I'll explain why later. Just wear the clothes my people provided. You've done a good job not shooting the friendly people. Keep that up and we'll be home free. We're still about 2 days' walk. We'll start meeting more people as we get closer to Fairbanksa, or Fairbanks as you people know it. The city was a mess upon entry. Nothing compared to the organized structure the vault dwellers were accustomed to. They didn't dare step into any of the shops after seeing the body of a dead woman scavenging. She hadn't seen the grenade bouquet that shattered all the windows and shredded the drywall. Fairbanks was not the objective of any nuclear strike. Continuing, they noticed the signs of battle clearly indicated the fighting had probably reached this far north. Makeshift barricades welded to the ground in front of old destroyed stores, a church with blown-out windows. With or without the snow and the debris strewn about, it would have been impossible to see the laser tripwire. Newton, who crossed its perimeter first, ducked instinctively as the horn it was connected to let out 3 short blasts. Cautiously, they moved forward into town, Allison asking Daniel, "What do you know about these old laser tripwires? They wouldn't be pre-war, would they? The fiber optics and other components wouldn't last that long." "That's right, Allie. These guys can't be more than a few years old. Someone knows we're here now. We should be on our guard." The entire time they walked deeper into the city, it was harder and harder not to feel as if they were being watched. The snow wasn't very strong, but the small flakes made it difficult to see. There were times where the vault dwellers would do double takes, as the snow moved in odd angles or shimmered slightly as if being viewed through water. Luke, who was listening to everything, couldn't resist adding his 2 cents. "I don't think we need to worry. We're not their enemies. I think we just rang the doorbell unintentionally." They passed by totems of many designs. Some were older, slowly decaying. The ones that had been freshly carved clearly depicted different animals. The vault dwellers debated amongst themselves whether they were at all real. David eyed them up and down. "I recognize most of these, even the ones with 2 heads, I think. We have deer, or radstag, fox, wolves, caribou, colossus. But this here, what's a camel doing on Native American totems? Or that 2-headed cow, for another thing. Amka, is that a camel?" Amka laughed a bit about their inexperience. "Yes, there's some tribes who use camels for transport. Their fur is good for staying warm. My people say they weren't always here. I found a book that showed a camel exhibit at the Anchorage Zoo. I think after the war they escaped the zoo and started populating in warmer climates." Further down they found the depictions of marine wildlife. These totems had a far darker feeling to them. Most of the creatures were barely recognizable from their pre-war counterparts. Extra limbs and deformed faces reaching out from the inky depths. They stopped talking when they got to the large totem in the center. Unlike the others, it didn't depict multiple animals. It depicted the giant worm creature they'd seen under the bridge in Kotzepu. The grain on the wood made the worm seem as if it was undulating, much like they'd seen it do under the ice. It was small compared to its real-life counterpart. This did little to change its ferocity. Multiple rows of teeth circled a mouth that looked as if it would swallow you whole or die trying.
Amka sounded wistful when she spoke. "This is one of the ways my people pass on information through time. It's also an invaluable artwork. I'm glad to see these are still here. Many things have been destroyed. These keep the culture and my people alive." Amka noted that she thought there would be more people. The way it had been described to her, this was the main hub of the Chinese remnant population. This was where everyone came to meet and pay their respects, or trade goods when they came back from scavenging or hunting. She knew that the tribes of the Chinese were very respectful and felt a keen sense of duty towards their guests as well as their own community and leader. It was odd to her that there would be no one to greet them. Anders, feeling his agoraphobia and trying to keep it in check, asked, "What are the chances they're just further into the city, maybe inside a building, out of the cold?" Amka told him that, as it was described to her, the Chinese had the ability to see you miles off in the distance. Before you knew it, they would appear in front of you, as if out of nowhere. Percival stood up to look around, grimacing and holding his arm. "Maybe they know we're coming, and they're waiting to see what we do when we get closer." As they got towards what should have been the more densely populated part of the town, they began to see the telltale signs of human habitation. Tracks in the snow, garbage, and fires still smoking, their embers barely extinguished. The group stopped here to rest. Marie sat down by one of the fire pits, trying to stoke it into a flame again. "If this area is frequented as much as it seems, then if we sit here for a while, we might find someone to talk to. My Pip-Boy is telling me we're not far from the main railway access junction for the yard. If that's their main area of operations, we should approach it slowly. We don't want to be seen as aggressive or anything, and we don't know what they're capable of either. They may be friendly like Amka implies, but they are the descendants of soldiers. and we are the descendants of their enemy. They vetted a warm place to sit while they waited for someone to show up. The buildings toward the center of the city were trap-free. The group pulled up their sled and made themselves something to eat while the winds picked up outside.
Luke's Expedition Journal. Out of everywhere we've been, this place has to be the most dilapidated, war-torn area in all of Alaska. The buildings here are molding, rotten, or in different stages of decomposition. Not nearly the metropolis Amka led us to believe. I can't help but feel like we've been under a microscope ever since we arrived. Fairbanks is even bigger than I imagined Anchorage would be. I wonder how many people used to live here before the world went to hell. It makes sense the Chinese would take this place for their own. I don't understand why they couldn't refurbish the architecture. My guess? If I was in their shoes, I wouldn't want to go out of the way to repair the homes of my enemies either. We've seen one person so far. They weren't alive, but they were wearing a vault suit. They had improvised armor over their regular clothes. I wasn't able to see the number on the back. No one wanted to go anywhere near it. No one seemed to notice the blue and yellow under the layers of leather and metal. I'm not going to bring it up. If we're being watched, it's in our best interest to act as nonchalant as possible. Colin McCallson's log, June 12th, 2296. We've struck oil. No one has seen a glimpse since it killed those Enclave men. The voices have even stopped. It's almost a miracle. Not a single soul is celebrating. It's as if everyone is expecting something, but no one knows what it could be. We've slowly begun setting up the scaffolding and supports to angle the siphon into the murky crude. We should be moving faster. Even the Enclave seems to be getting tired. They must have been just as exhausted from the voice as we are. Martin Smith's log, June 13th, 2296. When we turned on the machine, there was a great roar. Some people thought it was the machine pumping air as it started. Those people are fools. It's as if they've been in a hole in the ground the whole time this has been going on. The Enclave have a guard station in front of the hole entrance. They must feel the same way I do. There's no way that thing is done with us yet. There's no way it will hold its promise or relinquish us once we find the oil. It makes no sense why it wants us to find the oil in the first place. Maybe its home is there, and it's waiting for us to encroach so it can kill the rest of us and claim the vault for itself? Peter Charger's log, July 14th, 2296. We lost more Vault Dwellers and Enclave today. The entire group that went to finalize the setup for the pipeline. They were gone when the next group showed up. The only evidence of what happened was the equipment covered with a film of crude oil, and drag marks soaked in the same oil leading to the newly discovered oil well. It was the first cavern all over again. The Enclave freaked out. I thought they were going to start shooting, which would have been the stupidest thing I could think of them doing. Shooting the creature just seems to make it angry, and if you shot a single round next to the oil, there's a good chance we would all go up in a fireball. Hopefully everyone keeps their heads on straight. I think it's only a matter of time before something really bad happens. Dean McBride's log, June 14th, 2296. They won't even allow us to mourn our friends. The only response we get is, "You're lucky you're still alive." Arch Jr., he leered at those who wouldn't stop crying. This time he didn't yell. I don't think he had the energy. We had friends too that died trying to protect you. So get to work before we lose our patience. All of this has done nothing to soften their tempers towards us. They still treat us better than they treat Gregor. They don't even seem to treat him like he's human. It seems to me they would normally kill people like him. For some reason they're leaving him alive. Maybe it's because the Amakuk poses more of a threat and they don't want to push us any more than they already have. It's been worse for the Overseer. Today he came out with a fat purple bruise on his neck. I'm pretty sure he told the higher-ups he didn't like what they were doing, trying to force us to work harder, even though the oil is tapped. They don't seem to be in a rush to kill the monster anymore. They just listen through sonar to see where it is. Now that the oil is tapped, the Enclave looks like they're getting ready to pack things up. They seem to be preparing for a large mess of supplies. I've even seen them in the vault storage room, rifling through for extra goods. Do they intend to leave us with nothing? The Overseer has never been an overtly mean man. He always has reasons for the things he does, and I have seen him go out of his way to be genuinely nice to someone. To see him sunk this low, he loses his temper over the smallest things now. He's even resorted to taking his frustrations out on some of us who have been hard on him recently. I don't see how we get out of this. The only thing that is seeming to make any sense to the majority of us is to try and make a break for it. If they can't catch us, maybe we can escape into the wasteland and meet up with our friends who left the vault. Together we might be able to take our home back. If we tried that, a bunch of us could get hurt though. I wouldn't want to be the reason that someone I know dies, especially the older members and the children. Some of them still aren't quite sure what's going on. It would be wrong to leave them behind to face this alone.
Kilroy McCarver's log. June 16th, 2296. The Enclave has been locking the Overseer in his office and yelling at him. Afterwards, he gets on the intercom and tells us that the pipe is not working at full efficiency. He says we'll be working night and day to fix it. He assures us that when this is done, the Enclave will be leaving us. They intend to fill the excavation with concrete to prevent the creature from getting through. This has brought up a bunch of murmuring among the dwellers. There are those that believe this will do nothing to deter the creature. They think it can dig through dirt and swim through water. I guess we can add swim and oil to that list as well. The Amy Cook still hasn't talked to me like it has everyone else. Gregor says he hasn't heard it either. We think it has trouble manipulating people with irregular brains. From what Troy says, Gregor classifies as brain dead, and after my concussions, my head hurts constantly. I wouldn't be able to focus on whatever it was trying to get me to do anyways. Everyone else seems to be of clear mind too these days. Not sure why, but the Enclave are still as angry as ever. They keep asking why it's taking so long to get the pipeline working properly. Not all of us have knowledge in that area of expertise, but they don't seem to care. It's almost as if we all look alike to them. They still don't bother to call us by our names, instead referring to us as citizen. It seems a little dehumanizing, like they're trying to distance themselves, like you do to a lamb before the slaughter.
Syl McMurphy's log, June 16th, 2296. They've locked everyone in their rooms. I didn't even know it was possible to maglock seal the doors. The only locks we've ever used were the terminals located next to the entrances to our homes. But for some reason, even though I've turned off all the electronic locks, it still won't open. I want to go check on the others, but I can hear them all banging on their own doors asking to be let out. There are a couple people who have a fear of small spaces. We joke about it a lot, living in an enclosed space underground. But at a time like this, there's nothing we can do to help them get over the fear that must be gripping them. The Enclave walked by all our windows and started writing on clipboards. They were taking an inventory of us. They probably got access to the Overseer's information and were checking it against their own rosters so they could figure out everyone that went above ground. Whatever they want to do with us, you can be sure we won't make it easy for them. At least I won't. There's quite a few people who are either too young or too old, and the rest are exhausted from the non-stop work and cold. I'm pretty sure there are a few who have mild hypothermia, and there's nothing Dr. Troy can do while they have us locked up like this. I haven't thought about the expedition group that much since they left. I hope they're doing okay up there. As much as I'd love for them to ride in on a white sentry bot and save us, I don't want them to come back here just to wind up trapped in this place at the mercy of these monsters, and I don't mean the Amakuk. At this point, they're not even disguising their disdain for us. When they looked through my window, I could see the condescension in their eyes, staring down their noses at me as they scribble away on their papers.
Overseer's log. June 16th, 2296. The Enclave knew that this vault was supposed to be a forced labor vault. They knew how to access the gas reserves to knock out everybody in their rooms. I overheard them saying it was lucky that they found this place. They said it was thanks to Gregor, unless some other wastelander was somehow able to access the database from an outside network. According to them, nothing had come up when searching for this vault specifically. Gregor hadn't noticed when they turned on the transmitter attached to the Pip-Boy he was wearing. They tracked him all the way here. This is all Gregor's fault. Of course it is. This all started with him. I should throw him out the door and be done with him. He doesn't offer us any information. All he does is waste resources. And God only knows what he smells like underneath that radiation suit. There's no way we're getting that back, along with the other supplies the Enclave has commandeered. Later, I heard them talking about the messages that I was receiving from Vault-Tec. I had just told them I was going to check on the welfare of my dwellers, but I stopped just outside the door to be able to catch their conversation. Apparently, a vast majority of the messages I'd been receiving were from these gentlemen under the guise of Vault-Tec. But it became more peculiar as I continued to listen. Yes, most of the messages came from the Enclave, but there were a small amount that were coming from a third-party source. The Enclave was mostly worried about our oil reserves and eventually using us for slave labor. But the messages that were demanding we get periodic tests to ensure our lack of radiation exposure and genome corruption wasn't their idea. Nor were they sure who was sending it. One of them suggested going to me and torturing me to see if I had the information on who could be messaging the vault. They quickly quieted down, though, when another man entered the room from the other side, decked out in power armor that looked the most advanced in comparison to everyone else he had brought with him. We all know who it was, and it won't do any good to give them the time of day trying to figure out their motivations. It's enough to know they plan to use this place in their sick plans. I don't know who it is that big man was referring to, but I'd rather not find out. It's bad enough to think there were multiple groups of people all misleading me. I know this vault wasn't designed to be the most humane place, but long ago we stopped the practice during the Great Revolt of 2088, and from which point on, we were a meritocracy. The only job which was sanctioned to follow marriage and bloodline was overseer. My family has been in charge of it the whole time. When the last slaving overseer was killed by his daughter, she became the overseer, and things were better than they were above ground for the longest time. I can't let us go back to those times. I'll do anything I can to stop it. They're talking about gassing all of the dwellers. I don't think these men are just going to up and leave when they have what they want. There's nothing to stop us redirecting the oil that we need. The oil. You know, there was a time that was all I could think about. I couldn't just tell anybody about it either, or they would have had me thrown out of the vault. But maybe that was just my fear talking. If we'd actually sat down and talked this all out, things might needn't have gotten so bad. I know now, though, that the Enclave finding us was inevitable, as soon as Gregor showed up. I can't bear the thought of what they're going to do to the dwellers.
Luke sat up when he heard the scuffling of feet on the ground. Your high-guy suits aren't completely invisible, you know. It wasn't hard for me to notice you making small tracks in the snow, and the way the snow would stick and melt mid-air. I don't know how many of you there are, but we come here in peace. We're from a vault called 710. We left our vault looking for a place called Greenland. We made friends with the Inuit people who told us you were a friendly group, people who might help us get further on our journey. If that's not the case, however, we can leave in peace. It can be as if we were never here. The first one of the Chinese to turn visible again had no weapon equipped. If this is as you say, then your people should come with me to see our glorious leader. To him you can tell your story. If he believes you, then we might be friends. Until then, I need to watch you like a hawk. He waited for the group to gather the things and make sure everyone was ready to go before directing them through town. A few of the vault dwellers began to notice the invisible outlines of the high-guy suits. They couldn't estimate how many soldiers were following them as they made their way through what seemed to be more of the abandoned city. The soldier didn't disclose whether there was anyone else with him, but they didn't expect an answer even if they asked. This man seemed to be all about business. The moment he spoke, his eyes seemed to go right through to their core. There was a kindness there, just barely perceptible behind the military armor. The soldier walked at the head of the group, directing them towards the center of town. He led them through a large park. He veered off to the right and headed towards an empty lot. A large sign in front said FAI. They walked across the icy tarmac, sliding along the flat, even surface. They followed down Universe Road, heading towards a building called the Terminus. Once inside, heaters blew on their faces. Light carpeting cushioned their feet against the ground. The snow on their shoes melted almost instantly, leaving behind a large puddle in its wake. It was then that a Mr. Handy showed up. "Tally-ho! Welcome to the Fairbanks International Airport. Are you catching a flight today? It looks like you're soaked. Let me help you with that." He then vacuumed the water off the ground while trading pleasantries with the vault dwellers. The soldiers seemed exhausted by the robot. He walked past without acknowledging it. He left before he finished drying off, indicating the vault dwellers follow him.
Melanie, just as confused as everyone else, speedily walked to the head of the group. Slightly out of breath, she asked, "I thought we were heading to the rail yard where we could meet your people and maybe rest a bit. Is this a warmer way of getting there, or is there something we need to do first?" The soldier kept his face forward. "You'll get to meet our people and rest soon, but before we do that, you need to meet the general. He will need to hear your story. It's been a while since we've had visitors. This base was a hard-fought battle. We need to be sure you're not part of the United States government, acting as spies, or worse." Wind buffeted the building as they walked down the halls. They followed the soldier up the stairs to the top of a tower filled with screens and old radio equipment. Sky traffic monitoring was emblazoned on the sign above the door. Inside, they could see only one man, ancient and wizened, staring out at the frozen tundra. He moved very deliberately as he turned around and addressed the vault dwellers.
"You've traveled a long way, I'm guessing. Almost as far as our people did during the Great War. You don't look to be part of the Enclave. That can only mean you're from somewhere else. And you came from the frozen wastes escaping something. Or you're from one of the vaults up north. If you come from one of those vaults, you're probably wishing you never left. It's a good thing you're not wearing your vault suits. Our people don't have a good history with the red, white, and blue. Or the blue and yellow. Different colors. Same old USA. Please tell me more about why you're here. And don't worry about the high why. They're here for my safety. You've already met one of my sergeants. All these invisible soldiers are descendants of the Crimson Dragoon, an ancient line of warriors dating back from before the war. They're my bodyguards and protectors of our people. As long as you break no laws, you'll probably never see them."
Marie was the one who found her voice first. The rest of them were still trying to come to grips with the idea of invisible soldiers all around them. "We're here seeking passage through to Canada. We were hoping that you could give us a train ride to the Canadian border. From there, we want to go to Greenland. We've lost a number of our group along the way already. It was from the Inuit people that we learned of your existence, and it was Amka here who guided us to your city. I suppose I should have let her speak, but I think you wanted to hear about the Vault Dwellers straight from the Vault Dweller's mouth. The note you sent us said to trust in the good of humanity, so I'm going to do that. We have decent supplies, but at the rate we're going, it will take a long time to reach Greenland. Unless your people know how to fly those planes that are stationed outside of here?"
The general sighed. "Unfortunately, we do not know how to fly them. They were a reminder of the war we fought to gain this place. We fought from here, down to the North Pole, then all the way to the U.S. government Air Force Base. We refused to let the United States try to start the war back up using their vertibots. As for the note you say you got, I can assure you, you didn't receive it from us. Unless someone sent it without my knowledge. Most of the communications come through this place, and the Air Force Base southeast of here. I can assure you that no such message left this base. Beware the wasteland and the people that wander it. Some are nice, like us, but you don't want to run afoul of the United States Army, or the Luce Guau. David perked up his ears, deciphering the language before responding. Green monster? Do you mean the snow? Or the lights in the sky? They're green, but they're not monsters. Just a result of science. The general let out a little laugh before continuing. No. We can talk about that after you've had some rest, friends. I'll have a group of guards guide you back to the rail yard. They can help you carry your equipment and make sure no one bothers you too much. The people here will probably have questions. Many questions. You're the first non-hostile Americans we've seen in over 200 years. I might be hyperbolizing, but it honestly feels like the only ones who live here still are us, the Inuit, and the Enclave. So there are no more people like us, living above ground in Alaska? And this Enclave are remnants of the United States government after the war? They still choose to fight you for land? David said this with a hint of remorse, easily visible to the general. The war was 2 centuries ago, but they cannot let go of it. Of course they might still be angry that we removed them from this place. When we were forced to come here, it was our only option at the time. Somehow the Americans were still synthesizing fuel to run their vertibirds. They would go on scouting parties to hunt us along the outskirts, in deserted villages. This went on for too long before we finally convened and took over this place. We fought our way to the military base, where we have now established full control, preventing future planes from using this as a refueling station. The last few we caught had been flying from the district of the capital and Boston. It's been a couple of years since we've seen another plane or vertibird. We can only assume they know this place is compromised, and now they avoid it. We'll talk more about that later as well. I'm sure you have more questions about Anchorage, or what we know about the lands to the east. Isn't it funny that we're discussing you going east, whereas my people want to go west to China? Which, if I remember correctly, your country used to call us the Communist East. I digress. Go rest, and we'll talk more and see if we can help you on your quest. Following their escort, the vault dwellers were led back down and through the city. Gradually more people appeared. Some waved, some bowed. Steam started to float around the group. Slowly it dispersed as the rail yard came into view. Groups of Chinese settlers swarmed the dwellers. It was nice for them to feel a sense of community after so long, even if it wasn't their own. It made them think back on the people in the vault and how they were faring without them. The rail yard held dozens of cars. Inside of them, people were resting, others were repairing holes, with their face shields reminiscent of power armor helmets. Rudimentary gas lamps illuminated the area. As the sun went down, adding a blue hue to the purple and green backdrop of the sky, the sounds of metalwork and welding went on throughout the night and day. It was a comforting reminder that there was a group of people willing to stick together and fight off the nightly threats of Alaska's wilderness. Luke's Expedition Journal. First we saw the indigenous tribes. Now we've come into contact with Chinese settlers. Lucy, you should see them. It reminds me of the old history books we read in school. They work on the railways, but they've done so much more than rebuild the tracks and cars. They've made mobile homes, defensible moving structures they can use to safely journey through Alaska. Do they know that their ancestors helped lay these tracks? They still don't like Americans too much. Actually, it's hard to tell if they don't like Americans or if they have an overall dislike for things made in America. I want to ask them why they haven't gone home yet, but I don't want to seem rude. I don't think I'll get much sleep tonight. Daniel says their food is unlike anything we've had before. Something called raw men. They can call it whatever they want. I read Soylent Green. I'm not eating people. Edit. So apparently it's spelled ramen, R-A-M-E-N, and it's delicious noodles. I could eat these every day. They have a bunch they want to give us when we go too. In another life, I would just eat these all the time and play holotape games all day.
We hope you enjoyed our story. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to hear more about why war never changes, please subscribe to get regular updates on the adventures of the dwellers from Vault 710. If you're excited about the expanding Fallout universe, please feel free to tell your friends and spread the word. If you'd like to contribute, we invite you to join our Patreon. Subscribers will get access to episodes 1 week early. Our hope is that these stories help fill the void of being unable to play Fallout 5.